Hi, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, my wife's Hyundai got bumped twice. First time damaged the lower bumper. This last one bent this tailgate lip, cracked the paint, and now I'm starting to get some rust in here. So I need to get that taken care of. I want to paint this correctly. Repaint the whole thing. It's a pearl, so to touch this up, it's going to be really difficult. So most likely I'm going to have to repaint this whole panel. The bumper itself isn't damaged, but this piece is, but this is removable. So that'll be for another day. And I noticed as I look up underneath, the crash bar has kind of a, it looks like maybe fiberglass kind of a material. It's got cracks in it. So there's going to be some extensive work that I need to do here after getting bumped pretty hard. But for now, I want to get this protected so that it doesn't rust anymore and it's not so obvious. It's just ugly. So I want to straighten this out and do some touch up, and let's see if we can get it to look really, really good, and maybe I just don't have to repaint the whole back end. Let's start by bending this out. So hopefully this shows, but as I look across this, this lip is bent in, and so there's a high spot here. And what it is there's a seam where the edge of this outer sheet is rolled over the bottom inside sheet, and then it is welded and sealed across the back side. So that's where the two come together. It has bent that down, but fortunately it has not bent this panel itself. So I need to bend this out, but if I just take a pair of pliers or something and bend this, I'm just going to make it worse. It's just, it's probably going to chip the paint more, and it's going to leave this as a rough surface. So I want to smooth it out as much as I can and not make it rougher. You know what I mean. So I will take and hold a flat dolly on this outer edge, and then I can just tap this edge out and hold it to keep it from bulging, because if I just tap this without holding this down, it's just going to bulge out as it rolls this edge. So I can take this edge and make it all nice and straight, but this isn't going to stay down unless I hold it down. I just want to work it lightly. I like to use a aluminum ruler to kind of check my work. You can hold that across there and it'll give you a nice smooth surface. I'm close, but I'm still need to bring this out a little bit more. Okay, I'm happy with this area now. But now this is a slight high spot. So I will want to hold this lip so I don't move it anymore, and then tap down that high spot. You can hear that is really solid. If I was tapping on an area where it's hollow, you can hear a big difference. So I'm needing to bend the inner sheet at the same time to get this smooth. Yeah, it definitely needs filler along here to get it perfect. The best thing to do would be to do a skim coat across this and put a primer surfacer on it and block this down perfectly smooth. But for this test, we want to just see how good I can get it with just touch-up paint. Okay, now what I want to do is get rid of any loose paint. Let me just use my thumb now to kind of rub that off. Okay, now I want to take some kind of a scuffing pad. You can use steel wool or 3M scouring type pad. I'm going to use a red pad, and I'm just going to clean up the edges of this as much as I can and get rid of any of that rust. And then I will wipe it off with alcohol and touch it up. Okay, so I've got a red Scotch-Brite pad, and I'm just going to rub this into the edge, trying not to take the shine off of the white paint. I want to keep that gloss, but it does have some surface rust in there, so I'm gonna have to work it pretty good to get that rust out. On the driver's side of the door jamb, down along the bottom, there's a sticker that has the VIN number and information. Well, there is a paint code on that sticker, and it is WW8, which is a pearl white. Most of the pearls are 3-stage, so you've got just a white base, and then you've got a clear coat, and then you've got a clear with pearl. Some of the 3-stage has a base of silver, and then you would have your color coat, and then you would have your white with pearl. So there's a bunch of different ways you can get the paint. Now, if I was going to actually paint this on, then I would look at the steps that went into painting this surface. And from what I can see from the edges of this paint, it was primer, then it was white, and then it was a pearl clear. So that would be just a 2-stage coat. But some of these were 3-stage, which would be white, then pearl, then clear. So that's one of the things that in order to get the correct pearl to match, pearls are difficult. As long as you do a whole panel like this, you can do it and not end up with shadowing. But to do a touch-up of an area like this and spray it on, the pearls are going to be really difficult to match. So to do it right, to hide it really well, I would want to do a spot filler, like I mentioned earlier, across this area, block it all down completely flat, and then go through the processes of just repainting, just going right up to the taillights and right along to this edge. But again, for this particular project, I want to just get a touch-up. I bought this on Amazon. I'm in a rural area now, so I can't just go to the auto parts store and get this paint, or the dealer. But there are many ways you can find this online. I got this one again from Amazon. A lot of these will have a brush in the paint, and this kit also came with a separate brush. I like the separate brush because then I can clean that brush out and reuse it, versus this brush, which is all covered in paint and it gets a little too heavy and just isn't as easy to control. So I will really mix this up well. It's got a little shaker in it. So I am going to start with using this brush that's included and see what kind of control I have. Oh, I can see right away that this has way too much pearl. So it is just going to look like silver. The paint coat that is on this cap does show my WW8 white pearl tri-coat. It can't be correct because it's silver. I'd be better off with just plain white. Really shaking this up now for a couple of minutes. Let's try this again, and I want to do this in several coats, very light coats, because there's quite a lip there and I want to fill that lip. So if I put on most of the paint right down the middle, not really concentrating too much along the edges, I should be able to get a pretty good coat. On the bare paint. And then as I coat it each time and build it up, I'll be able to get closer and closer to those edges. Because this is so wide, each time you put on a coat, it's going to loosen up that base coat. So the best way to do it is to put on a coat and let it really dry well before you try to put on another one. And then you're going to have to put on a fairly wet coat in order for it to not just mix and blend, and then it doesn't have that smooth consistency. So we'll just experiment with it as we go and see what kind of results I can get. But this keeps getting paint along the edge and it keeps trying to drip and glob down here on the tip. So I might have to use a different brush. But for now, let's just keep trying this out. Now, as I get a couple of coats on here, it is starting to go more white. It's not quite as silver. So I think I have the right color. I'm finding that if I can put it on like you would a pinstriper and just go with a smooth, consistent, long stroke, it goes on much better than trying to dab it on. This is one of those areas, as big as it is, it really makes more sense to mask this area off and spray it. Because brushing and getting lots of coats, it's very time consuming and very difficult, but it is manageable. So we're going to keep going. So I'm not concerned with building it up too much. I'll show you why, but we want to build it up as high as the top finish, if not more, and then you can sand it down or scuff it down or scrape it down, and I'm going to scrape it, so I'll show you that technique. Sanding it down is pretty obvious. You take sandpaper and sand it down, but using a razor blade and scuffing it down is my favorite technique. So this is a pretty good first coat, and it looks terrible. But as I let this cure and I do a couple more coats, hopefully the buildup will look much, much better. Granted, this looks better than just a rusty edge, and it's protecting the paint from getting rust underneath it and blistering it off, but it looks horrible. We'll keep going. Okay, coat number 2. We'll let this dry for a few minutes and we'll go on to 3. I still see edges. I want it to be slightly higher than the surface, but the color's not even coming close. Still too much silver, too much pearl. we'll keep going, we'll build it up, and I don't think this is going to turn out very good because of the pearl. All right, I have 3 coats of paint on this. It's not quite thick enough to do everything that I want, but it's just not even close to the right color. There's no sense in me going on anymore. I can just keep building this up and building it up. It's just not gonna match. So what I'm gonna do, since I'm already involved, I'm going to use some white paint that I have, and I'm going to brush that in and see if I can just kind of mix it in since this isn't fully cured. Why not? I might as well start experimenting with this because this looks terrible. I'm embarrassed. So since this wasn't cured, I'm going to take this opportunity to kind of blend the 2 colors together. This is way off the typical technique for doing something like this, but a touch of paint just is not going to work, so I might as well just completely botch it or make it as good as possible. Okay, I'm going to let this cure, and then I'm going to take a razor blade and scrape it as smooth as possible, and we'll see what it looks like. Definitely looks better than that grayish color. Still embarrassing. So there's several different ways you can finish this. You can wait till it completely cures, sand it down, give it a clear coat, buff it all out. That's typically what I'll do. There's no reason for me to go that extra step because this doesn't match, but at least it matches a whole lot better than the way it started out. But because of the brush strokes, it's really, really lumpy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an X-Acto blade and I'm just going to go across the lumps and just scrape off the paint. It's not completely cured, but it's cured enough that I can scrape it off without literally pulling it out. And that'll get it smooth, and then I could just go ahead and buff it, but we'll see what it looks like. Okay, well that's exactly what I was afraid of. As I scrape off the white coat on top, I'm getting down to that pearl coat and touch up. I was hoping it would blend well enough to make this whiter, but now as I scrape it off, it just keeps getting silver and gray and patches of white. So just to smooth this out, I'm going to go ahead, drag it all down completely smooth, and I'm going to put a coat of white over the top of it and just call it good. I mean, at least it's protected. It looks a whole lot better than it just jumping right out at you between either the rusty metal or the wrong color type. I'm finished scraping all this down, and then I'll put a coat on it. So to just kind of finish it up until I can get around to repainting this back hatch, I'm going to just touch this up with the spray can, because as I scrape all this off and I smooth it all out, it's just getting distorted colors. So just need a mist on, a coat of white, and call it good. So what I'm doing is I back tape, so I will run the tape across it, and then when you roll it, it rolls the tape back and gives you a soft edge. And I'm using a towel that'll soak in the paint so that will leave it softer too. But as long as I don't get it too wet, it won't soak through on the other side. And then I'll do the same thing on these ends. I will roll this back. And that'll give a soft edge here as well. Now I can just mist in some paint. I'm not going to put it on very thick. I just want to give it color. It'll give it a little bit of transparency so that hopefully you won't see the edges. Well, after a little bit of polishing, I'm actually very impressed. It turned out better than I thought it would. I thought for sure it would be really noticeable. All right. Pretty cool. Take care of the rust and take care of the eyesore.